Welcome to a Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and I'm here to talk about a new novel that I just read that I was looking forward to, The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, Stephen Graham Jones is probably best known for The Only Good Indians and the trilogy that starts with My Heart is a Chainsaw. I've heard a lot of good things about him, and I have My Heart is a Chainsaw, so I've been looking forward to reading something of his work. Oh, Night of the Mannequins is another very popular title of his. So then the Blackheart Bookstore, Gravetails Book Club, was going to read this book for the month of April, and so I thought, I want to join that because that's been kind of fun. So I read this the last couple of weeks, and we did the book club meeting, and now I'm shooting my video to review it. And I guess first a little about Stephen Graham Jones. He comes from Midland, Texas. Born in 1972, published his first novel, The Fast Bread Road, in 2000. So he's been writing for a while, been around for a while. And The Buffalo Hunter Hunter is his very latest work, which is number 131 in my bibliography of his works, which may or may not be accurate. So The Buffalo Hunter Hunter was officially released March 18th of this year by Saga Press, and that's this edition here. And Stephen Graham Jones has been quite well known for horror fiction lately, and making a big reputation for himself. And so I had to try something by him, had to read this book. It was getting so much press. And before I get into the synopsis, I'd like to note, because I love graphic design, the image, which is a really cool image, is just a stock photo. It is a photograph of a buffalo with the background blown out. And it's just stock photo. So it's not a painted illustration, but it's still a compelling image. And then the way the graphic designer did the typography with it and the layout of the cover, I think is really, really nice. One of the better examples of cover design in recent years. So the book, what is it about? It's kind of inspired by Dracula, so it's told epistolary style, which is where it's letters or journals, or supposedly other real documents that were written down and then retyped for the book to make it seem more realistic, more like it's a true story, even though it is a work of fiction. Now this is a work of fiction because vampires aren't real, but it is based upon some real events. The massacre that's talked about at an Indian village really did happen. Okay. And the story takes place in Montana, so out west, and ranges from the 1880s to, most of the story ranges from the 1880s to about 1915. But the beginning and end of the story are a relative of one of the people in the main story finding his journal and reading it, and then she writes her own journal entries of things that happened to her. So she starts out with her journal, and then she talks about having found and read her great grandfather's journal. And he was a Lutheran pastor in this small town in Montana. And somebody in the book club asked the question, why Lutheran? What's the significance of that? And there isn't any significance other than the fact that the church that was really in this town in Montana back then was a Lutheran church. And the Indians were Pecuni Indians, and a group the pastor The pastor is writing his journal, and he's relating the story of how this one Pecuni Indian came to him for looking for some kind of absolution, even though he wasn't Lutheran or Christian or anything. But he was looking for some kind of absolution for things in his life. And so he's relating all of his story to the pastor. And he's actually there for other reasons, but he doesn't say that through most of the book. I won't spoil what that was. But his name is Good Stab, an Indian name. And he and a bunch of other Pecuni Indians had captured what he called a catman, because it was acting like an animal. And this catman escapes from the cage they have it in and kills everyone except for Good Stab. He gets just wounded, but then some white soldiers come along. One of them has a blunderbuss rifle and blasts the catman into 2 pieces. And the catman lands in such a place as blood runs down a hill into Good Stab's mouth. Now the catman is a vampire. And the vampirism in this story is a little different. They're not your suave, lady-killing, Dracula-type vampire. It's very much an animalistic vampire that has to live away from men and hide in the forest. And the weird thing about them is they have to drink blood in order to survive. If they drink blood, they'll actually be able to regenerate. And so they do so. And but when they do, they start taking on characteristics of whatever they're eating. So the first thing Good Stab does when he starts being converted to a vampire is he goes after the buffalo hunters, because he hates the white man buffalo hunters coming in and stealing all the hides, so he wants to kill them, and so he's feeding off them, but then he starts to look like one of them. Well, he doesn't want to lose his Pecuni looks, so then he has to feed off his own people. And that sets up the story, and the book goes on from there. Overall, I liked the book, but I just liked the book. On Goodreads, I gave it 3 stars. And by 3 stars, I mean it's a good book. It's enjoyable. I think if you try it and read it, you're likely to enjoy it. But there are problems. It's a very slow story, especially at the beginning. And once it does get going, it kind of keeps repeating the same thing. Good Stab is now this vampiric being, and he has to drink blood in order to survive. And the white soldiers that killed the catman, they, hurt him too. So he has to recover from his wounds, so he has to find something to feed on. So every time he feeds, if he goes after a white person, unfortunately, there are other white people around that discover him, and they start shooting him. And he survives the bullet shots, but he has only because he then goes out and finds something else to feed on. So then it starts a cycle all over again. He's feeding, he's discovered, he's injured, so he needs to feed again. So then he goes and feeds, but he's discovered and he's injured. And that's one of the weaknesses of this book, is it seems to be cycling that same story again and again and again and again for a couple hundred pages, and you get to wonder, where's this book going? What's the point of the story? Is it just that he's gonna be stuck in this cycle for all eternity? That's boring as far as a book goes. So that was a weakness, and then toward the end things finally do get exciting, but it takes a lot of book to get there. This is 440 some pages. And it's not something that moves along really fast like Dracula or like The Mystery of Fu Manchu. Those are easy reading books. They move along fast. Tarzan moves along fast. You can read them quickly, and so they don't seem very long at all. Well, Tarzan isn't very long at all. Neither is Fu Manchu, but Dracula is pretty long, but it didn't feel long because the action is fast-paced and it moves along. This is not fast-paced and doesn't move along. So it feels like the book's just going on forever. It feels like it really drags. And then the other weakness, another thing that slows you down, is all the Indian names. Most of them, you have to figure out what the name is talking about by context, and they're not all explained. Sometimes you have no clue what animal is being referred to, and in some cases even you don't know if he's talking about an animal or an Indian. The names don't really give you a clue except from how they're used, but there are cases where they're used poorly and you're left wondering, what is it? So that really slows you down. And I think there should have been, if he didn't want to put it into the story, then he should have had like an appendix at the back where he defines them for you, so that us dumb white people can figure out all the Indian names. So those things really hold this book back from being great. And those would have been easy things to resolve, too. It wouldn't have been that difficult. And, of course, if you wouldn't have cycled through the same basic story through so much of the book, if you would have cut that shorter, the book would be shorter and it would have read faster. And I think everybody would have had a much better time with the book then, instead of having to push their way through this really sluggish book. So these are easy fixes that could have been done, and for whatever reason they weren't, and that makes the book weaker than what it could have been. I was disappointed because I was really looking forward to this. I've heard nothing but great things about Stephen Graham Jones. There's been a lot of good things said about this book in other reviews, but after reading it, I'm sorry, I could recommend it as long as you go into it knowing it's not going to be your favorite book, and it's definitely not something you're going to read a second time. It's not that good of a book. But reading it once, there were some really enjoyable scenes in it. And the overall idea and the overall story is good. So you can enjoy it. But you kind of have to leave it at that and understand that you're probably not going to be keeping the book. You'll read it once, you'll go, that was good, and then you'll move on. And then that's what I'm doing. So The Buffalo Hunter. Have you read it yet? If you have, leave your comments in the comments section of the video. I will be reading more by Stephen Graham Jones because I already own my Hard as a Chainsaw, and I bought a special edition, so paid a bit of money for it. I'm going to read it. And I'm going to hope that my future experiences with Stephen Graham Jones will be better than this one. I'm not saying that it was bad enough of a book that I would never want to read him again, but he's not at the top of my list. He's not a new favorite must-read author like Stephen King. So, anyway, if you liked it, great. Leave your comments. Otherwise, I don't know when I'll be reading Stephen Graham Jones again. It may be a while. But I will be doing lots of other reviews, lots of other literature-related videos and topics. Lots of great stuff coming up, including the Decameron of Giovanni Boccaccio. We're currently reading that, and we will be doing a joint review, me and Emily. So coming back for all of that. Before you leave here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you'll see me in the next video.